today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at our current conditions where we have a major ongoing snowstorm there for the Northeast and portions of the very far northern mid-Atlantic. We're going to be taking a look at all of these things. And also, a little bit later on, just like always, we'll get into that model guidance where we have almost an identical storm potentially going to be taking place where we get a low here and then a low here, and all of this energy transfers to the one offshore. And then we end up getting snowfall in this corridor here, because if you're west of that low, we see damming cold air down the east coast. Now, again, we have showery activity here for the Northwest, just like we've had most of the winter, all the way through the Rockies and into the northern plains. So stretching kind of across all of these areas here, we have that activity out there. And then we have this still connected storm here where we have two lows at this point. So let's go ahead and zoom in. We're going to kind of skip over the west because this really is just showery activity. I'll zoom in for a second here, but we have mostly just your typical run-of-the-mill western showers going on. Snowfall for the higher elevation, a little bit more inland areas for the most part, and then rainfall here for the more coastal and southern areas. And then across the Rockies, we have a passing snow shower or two, depending on where you're at. Same story here for the northern plains and upper Midwest. Now, as we move into this more major system here that we have taking place, we again have a low here and then a low here. Most of this one here has really diminished, so I'm going to do a down arrow for that one. This one's been on the downtrend, definitely been a weakening low. And then we have this one here, which I'm underlining, and this one has been taking over as that primary low, and this one is on the uptrend. This one definitely is taking over more and more with every passing minute. And we have heavier snowfall developing because of this. Now, as we zoom in, we can see that this particular radar here does have areas near Boston, New York City, and other coastal areas along southern New England here dealing with some mixing issues. So if you're in this corridor, this particular model here, or better yet, this radar here, shows that there is mixing happening closer to that coastline, and then near Albany, the Berkshires, into kind of these central mountainous regions of Massachusetts and New Hampshire. We're seeing heavier snowfall and more consistent snowfall taking place. Probably the heaviest pocket here is from the White Mountains over to some areas near Cumberland and Brunswick there in Maine. That seems to be the heaviest pocket of that snowfall at this point, and near Montreal here as well, where we can see some heavier bands moving on to these areas. So definitely a very interesting thing happening there. Ottawa as well, I'm seeing some heavier bands. So some of our Canadian cities there are seeing some of the heaviest snowfall. Looks like maybe a snow squall here as well near, I think that's going to be Binghamton. Yeah, that's exactly where I thought that was. They had a monster snowstorm. This was maybe 3 years ago. They got like 50 inches, I think, in Binghamton there from one storm. So I remember that place very, very fondly from my weather memories and my weather bank in my head, where I just kind of remember every weather event that I've talked about. That's one in particular that I remember. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is move on, and we're going to talk about the model guidance, where we'll get to see what's going to happen with the rest of that storm, and also, again, another one that looks very similar to it as well, happening in the near future. Now, here we are taking a look at that modeled guidance, and we can see that basically this low was the stronger one overnight last night. This was a very weak low down here. I'm making it smaller, but even as we just make our way towards about noontime, we can see that this one is a 993 here, and this one's a 1002 millibar low pressure center. So most of this energy by the time we reached the morning into the around noontime here, the time I'm recording, this has already become by and far basically the more extreme low at this point. Now, what we're going to see happen is this storm system that is currently over the Northwest is going to do a little horseshoe around these areas, and then we're going to see it kind of do a curvature north here briefly. This is going to bring major severe weather for these areas here, and then also it's going to bring a potential snowstorm for these areas here down into the Northeast, just like that. So we're going to be watching for that. Now, watch it swing down. Again, it's going to do this horseshoeing loop right here. It's going to take about that track. Usually I'm pretty good at drawing it, so let's see if it does exactly what I showed. There we go, just about. And when you see this kink in our jet stream here, which when we're really looking at things, it's doing about like this. You see that kink right there, almost doing an S? that is a sign of a very, very intense storm. We're seeing this cold front basically do a little bow here, and that warm front is certainly having an extreme feature there as well. What we're seeing is wintry precipitation developing on the west end of things. Severe weather is certainly developing there, where we're at this point at least have an enhanced risk for day 3, could upgrade all the way up to at least a moderate risk. Definitely a very, very intense scenario there. Then we start to get this wintry precipitation developing on the northern end of things here. We'll even likely have a slight risk here for that day after, so we're going to be watching for that as well. But we see this as a 982, but watch, we're going to get a low developing here, and this will become that primary low, just like we saw with our most recent storm. We're going to see that one become the primary low right around the morning hours of Saturday, March 4th. What we're seeing is this one is a 990, this one is a 996, so this one is almost just as low. And what we will see happen here is by the time we reach this point, we have a 991 millibar low pressure center over around Cape Cod, and this one's all the way up to 1006. So we see a very similar solution here, and that 990 low just hangs out near New England and eventually comes to an end. And we do reach into a little bit of a quieter pattern here. We do get a brief minor snowstorm here potentially for the Northeast, these similar regions again. This is around March 7th into 8th. We don't get anything major until we're reaching about the 10th, where we see a very major storm developing near Colorado, bringing snowfall on the northern end and likely severe weather on the southern end. As we're seeing this humid, moist air really surge northward, this is going to be definitely something to watch as we move forward. Now, the total precipitation shows us a couple of things. One, that we're going to have a lot of storms moving onshore to the west, and we've talked about this time and time again. But it also shows us where a lot of these storms are going to be headed. We're going to see them move in like this and then transfer off the coast here 2 times on this model run. Well, kind of like 1.5 times. We see that occur. And most of this energy does transfer, kind of move over these Rockies, but they're so tall and so disruptive, and it's very dry in a lot of areas in here too, that it breaks up these storms, and you can see that the impacts as far as precipitation does diminish while it crosses over these areas, but it really picks up as it moves east of the plains. Kind of the more humid we get, the more these storms are able to pick up in intensity again. Pretty clear here when we take a look at that total precipitation map. Total snowfall map also tells a lot here. We have plenty of snowfall still expected out west, as the wintertime doesn't look to wrap up anytime soon for those folks. But we do expect more snowfall in this area over the next 10 days than we've probably seen in any 10-day period for the entire winter. As we zoom into the northeast, over the course of the 2 storms, we could see about 2 to 3 feet of snowfall for some of these areas. That includes the Green Mountains, the White Mountains, the Adirondacks, and these areas up here near Montreal, and some other towns and cities up there in Canada that we mentioned briefly a minute ago. Those areas look to also do fairly decent with this snowfall, so definitely a very, very intense look here. Now, as we move on to the GFS model, I just want to kind of compare and contrast. We get that storm number 1 out of the way. Storm number 2, not as intense when it develops, again, but we pick things up really, really quickly. And again, look at the jet stream. It's literally an S right there. That is a very intense look with the low right there. This definitely is not looking good for this severe weather here. We'll be watching it closely. This does look like, again, a very, very intense situation. We get a very similar solution here as well on this GFS model with the snowfall mostly for these areas. 995 there south of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. So definitely a very, very similar storm to what the European model showed, and both of those solutions would be very, very similar to what we just saw with this storm that's happening right now. So pretty interesting stuff to see a carbon copy, sort of. We do get where we get some dissension, I guess, descending cold air into the east here. Just enough for this northern end of this storm to bring some snowfall to these areas. Take that with a grain of salt, though, because that seems unusual. And we never really get anything major here on the model run. We do see that a lot of this cold air is happening for here. And then here, this is a very odd trough as well. So we're going to take anything that's weird like this with a grain of salt with this model. But we do see this southeast ridge kind of fighting back. And in the middle here, we see some ridging in between the 2 primary areas of this trough. So it just seems like the southeast ridge is fighting back quite a bit. We do see some warmer air for the west than we've seen for quite a while, so could be interesting takeaway. This doesn't look particularly frigid though as we move towards mid-March, and let's go ahead and just take a look here through our temperature pattern, and we stay warm for the most part in the east until about March 8th, and then we start to see some cold introduced, but still you can see that the primary area of cold is in the west on this ensemble model. This is the European ensemble model. But we eventually start to get more and more and more in the east to where, I mean, by the time we're reaching about the 15th here, I would say that the primary trough is going to be right here, honestly. From what I'm seeing, this is the look, and we could even be featuring a bit of a ridge in the west. I mean, this is a possibility by mid-March. This is kind of my least favorite type of winter and spring so far, how things have gone. You know, warm and snowless for the winter, and then the cold comes right when you're like, okay, finally, I guess I'm okay with it warming up because it's spring. At least we'll get some thunderstorms, some nice weather as well. And it's, you know, going to be a good growing season. You're probably ready for it to warm up by time, you know, this kind of just cold enough to be annoying, but just warm enough to not bring snowfall winter is all said and done. That's from the snow lover's perspective, at least. And then obviously once it's too late for snowfall, or just, you know, pretty much near it by March 15th, that's when the cold moves in, but it's too little too late, but it will keep things annoyingly cold if this scenario is correct. So obviously and honestly, I'm not really cheering for this solution, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Maybe there's some people that want a colder March, I don't know. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe for more daily uploads just like this one. Also like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.